I would like to take a moment before we get into today's main episode and to talk about my sponsor for the podcast. Podmatch is a new podcasting site dedicated to all podcasters. The platform helps hosts get connected with potential guests to appear on their show, as well as allow guests to find podcasts that will give them a chance to share their story. Podmatch offers many tools to help organize your page, from to-do lists to episode planning to potentially appearing on a leaderboard. Podmatch has it all. The best part, you have the potential to get paid. And who doesn't like to get paid from home? I like to. With an easy sign up, you can start connecting with podcasters and guests immediately. I have been a part of Podmatch since the beginning of May, and I have got to say that it was the best decision I've ever made because Podmatch helps your podcast grow. It helps you get connected with people that have very interesting, very compelling background stories that are just waiting for their story to be shared. So if you are a host or guest and would like to start building professional relationships, explore more opportunities, and have your story shared, I highly suggest that you sign up with Podmatch today by going to joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to start expanding your network in seconds. I would like to give another huge thank you to Podmatch for sponsoring this episode. Now on to our main episode, and again, you can sign up at joinpodmatch.com/lethal venom to begin your podcasting journey today. Hello everyone, welcome to the Lethal Venom Podcast. This is a show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today I'm joined by Tommy Kilpatrick. He is going to be telling us a little bit about credit card debt and I think something important that most people nowadays would probably not know, and he's here to give some advice on how to help prevent that. So Tommy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
So if you could just introduce yourself and tell me what you do.
Oh, sure. I'm a retired teacher and an author, and I had written a book on health and healing, and it became so popular in 2004. I was given a infomercial contract, and I was put on the radio for about 6 months. So I needed to live on my credit cards, and I had three cards. And then about 6 months into it, the one of the talents got in trouble with the FTC. And so they came down hard on the company, and the company canceled all the new contracts. And so I was left with $85,000 of credit card debt. And that kind of put me into a depression. So about a month later, I woke up one morning thinking about my dad being a CPA. And I was in school to be such that as a certified public accountant. And I realized that the bank doesn't have an invoice, doesn't have evidence of a debt. And then the next argument, well, they loaned you the money. And then from my accounting classes in the banking section, we read the book Modern Money Mechanics put out by the Federal Reserve. And on page 6, and that's in my show notes, it says right there that the banks have to have a promissory note first, and then they write numbers into your free checking account. And so I know I never signed a promissory note. My father at the time was an attorney and a judge, and we had long discussions about how the Supreme Court has ruled over and over again that fraud undoes all contracts. So I have no contractual agreement with the bank. And so I had seen somebody on early YouTube about how easy it was and simple and fun it was to file a federal lawsuit. He said that the judges are very accommodating to pro se people like myself. So I filed three federal lawsuits in Los Angeles. And the question is, did I win? Well, we were getting into it, ready to do the depositions. And all of a sudden, I was called into court by the judge. And he asked me a simple question: do you have a credit card? Well, I said, well, no, I have it's a gift card. He goes, Mr. Kilpatrick, pull out your credit card, which I did. And he said, what's it say on there? I said, credit card. So he led me down the path that I looked like an idiot. And he said, get out. And he threw away, tossed out my three cases all at once. So about a month later, I happened to look at my credit report and it was all gone. All three of those negative, erroneous, well, negative things on my credit report were gone. And I received no 1099-C. That's important because when a bank loans you $100,000 and you don't pay them back, that's actually income you got. So they notify the IRS you received $100,000 and they get to deduct that off their taxes. So they pay less taxes. So they're very motivated to issue a 1099-C, which I never got. So a friend of mine had a charity, and it was dormant, so she gave it to me, and I turned it into a credit repair. And a lot of the people that needed credit repair also had debt. And I would write a letter to the bank, and their debt was gone. Some of them had like 10, 20, $100,000 of alleged credit card debt. So I wrote a letter, but they pushed back, and we went into court. And that's when I had my um, expert witness, the CPA, and that's in my book. And I do a mock story of the courtroom, and that happened to me, and it happened to my CPAs as I was going into court. But additionally, if you hire an attorney, they're going to say anything to you to get that retainer. And then when you get to court, they're going to back out and say, "Oh, I can't say this in front of the judge. What if the judge asks me if I got a credit card? I'm going to look like I am a predator on you, and I'll lose my law, practice, and my whole career will be gone if I take this to court." So that's what happened to me several times. So I have found out that if you use an attorney, you're screwed. So you just do it yourself. You write a letter, and you'll have no more credit card debt. So, in a quick story, that's what I'm all about.
So, what advice do you give to people on how to nuke credit card debt?
Yes, that's a very good question. Because when you say the word debt, you have a debt. You cannot go into court and say you don't have it when you admit you have it. We're watching TV, and we see that there is a bank robbery in progress, and they always say alleged. So all I'm asking you and your audience to do is to be a doubting Thomas like me. Doubt what I'm saying. Don't believe what I have to say. Check out the show notes because I got 3 links in there that prove what I'm saying. But send this podcast to your certified public accountant or anybody who's had a class in accounting, because they would have to read the same stuff I had to read, and they will know you never pay from an invoice, and you only can get a loan if there's a promissory note. You have to promise to pay the bank back. If you don't have that, then you don't have any agreement at all. And then there's also the law that says that if you cannot use fraud to enforce your contracts, so fraud undoes all contracts. So that's how I came up with the idea of just asking your audience to say one additional word: alleged. So now the question is, how do I nuke my alleged credit card debt? Okay. So there are true credit cards, and I'm not saying as a person that you can get out of your debt. I've had podcasters push back and say, "Well, Mr. Kilpatrick, what are you telling people? They can get out of their debt they actually have?" No, no, no. This is not a debt they have. So to explain very quickly is that, let's say you go into a tire store and you want to buy some tires, but you don't have the money. They say, "Oh, why don't you apply for an in-store credit card and see if you're approved? If you are, we'll put the tires on your car." And guess what? You are. So you drive away with brand new tires, and they did the service on your car, and you didn't pay. At the end of the month, you get a statement. They have an outstanding unpaid invoice. That invoice can show the date, the products they sold you, the service they did for you, taxes, all the things, terms and conditions, everything's all on that invoice. So that is a true credit card. Okay. You have to pay that. It's immoral. It's not right to skate on that debt. Okay. So how do you know that a bank card is a true credit card or not? So look on the back of your Amazon card, your Walmart card, or any store card, and look at the back, and it will say issued by Bank of America, Citibank, Wells Fargo, Deutsche Bank, Bank of London, Bank of Japan. If it says that, that is not a true credit card. So that's how you can nuke your alleged credit card, is to challenge that by asking to say alleged.
How can I nuke my bank issued alleged credit card debt?
Yes, you can. And how you do that is by by understanding what banks do. So we can't go on to the next step until we both agree that the bank was never a merchant. You never went into the bank and bought product for them or had them do a service, and the bank does not have an invoice. So we agree that there is no invoice, there is no debt. Now we move to the loan side of the story. So when you go into a bank with no money, you expect to come out with money, unless you're a criminal with a robbery idea. No, no, no. You walk into a bank with no money and you want to come out with money, and you do that by a loan. So what you do is, let me ask you a question, Noah. If I apply for a loan and I'm turned down, do I still get the loan? No, you don't get the loan. So when you apply and you do are approved for that application, you go into the bank and you fill out loan documents. You have to prove that you actually have an income. Now, the reason why is the bank cannot look like they are a predator. They cannot look at a way that they are deceiving the public and suckering you in on a loan and taking advantage of people who can't pay it back. So they would go into court and they would lose by not having a proof that this person could actually pay them back. So they have to do their due diligence, and you have to prove that you can pay this loan back by showing income. The other thing you have to have is collateral. So you put your house up, your car, or if you go for a personal loan, you have to put up something that if you don't pay, the bank is legally allowed to take your property away from you and sell it to get the money back. The other thing you have to have is a credit report that shows a history of payments, and your credit score determines your interest rate. But the last thing you sign is a promissory note. You promise to pay them back. And that's the critical thing. The Federal Reserve that was created back in 1913, it took a while for them to consolidate their power. And I believe they raised the interest rate so high they caused a depression of the 30s. And the purpose of that was to weed out all the weak banks and all the banks that wouldn't join the Federal Reserve. So you think it's just a federal thing, but it's not. It's like Federal Express. It has nothing to do with the federal government. They made it sound like that. But they did not have control of the banks. They only had control of a few banks they started with. But that's what they had to do, is force out banks and force them to be part of the Federal Reserve. Take a look at inflation from 1776 to present, and you'll see a flat line. It's a flat line ticket to 1933, and it went straight up. And that is when the banks were allowed to do this thing called fractional banking. And that's just a fancy term by saying you sign a promissory note, so you promise to pay them back, and they write numbers into your free checking account. No money was taken out of the economy to give it to you, and that caused inflation. So that's the story behind the banks. So the banks are only involved in loans. So what you can do to resolve this is to write a letter to the bank, ask them to close your free checking account associated with the card. It's that simple.
Do you recommend people using credit cards, or is it best to try to avoid credit cards the best you can?
Well, that's a good question too, because you might ask, well, Tommy, do you have a credit card? I do. How did you get the credit card? Well, about 12 years ago, the wife said, get out and take the dog with you. And I became homeless on purpose, and I took a vow of poverty. So I was off grid. I was on farms all across the United States, and I ended up in Maine. So I applied for a credit card about 9 months ago because things happen, and I'm on the outside now. And so I applied for Capital One, and they gave me a $500 credit card. I had no score, I had no history because I had no record for the last 10 years. And you're going, well, how did they do that? Well, I was a former customer. Oh, so I was on the customer list as a good customer. That's one of the banks I sued for the alleged $35,000 of credit card debt. So I actually got a credit card from the bank I actually sued. So yes, I do have a credit card. I started with no score, and then once they gave me a card, I got about a 560 because I had no history. And then I got another loan from the credit union, and so that able to boost my score. So now I'm at a 704, and it's slowly going up because I use 10% on my credit card. I know I call it a credit card. I know it's totally a lie, but I know. So I use the card to get my score up, and that's what I use that for. So if you with purpose and you have knowledge, but what happens is the bank is trying to get customers, and what they do is they have a budget, okay, and they used to give away a toaster or a wall clock to get you to come into the bank. One time, the bank had a advertisement that said, "Come into our bank and deposit $25, and in 90 days we'll match it." So I went to the bank, deposited $25, waited 91 days, went into the bank, withdrew $50, and closed my account. Let me ask you a question, Noah. Did I rip off the bank? No. Did I steal from the bank? I don't think so. And was that immoral for me to go into the bank and withdraw my $50? No. There's a guy on YouTube, and that's my fourth link to you, and he promotes this. He said, I've made $361 so far by going into a bank that makes these offers of cash matching with you. And that's what I do. I wait for the term to be ended, and then I withdraw the money and close the account. I go into the next bank. This is no different than a $500 credit card that was sent to you. It was given to you. That's the important word. You never had a debt with a bank, and they gave you the card. You didn't go in and fill out loan documents, so you never got a loan. So what the bank did is they sent you this card, and I call that a gift card. And that's when I tried to explain to the judge, but he wouldn't allow me to start from the beginning. So you have to hear the whole story from the beginning. The bank wanted me to be a customer. So they gave me a $500 credit card to use to entice me like a wall clock or a toaster or matching funds. So what'd you do with your $500 credit card? It's actually a gift card. What'd you do with the gift card? You went and used it. Let's say you went to Home Depot and you bought a toilet. Let's say. So you have a golden throne. You're walking out with your toilet and a person at the door says, wait a second, did you pay for that? And you have a receipt. Now here's the question to your audience. Now, do you think that Home Depot in a month from now is going to send me a statement saying I owe them $500? No, they were paid. Who paid them? The bank paid them. Okay, that night or the next day. Well, how did the bank get the money? It's from their advertising budget to get you to be a customer. So you were a good person. You saw a statement come to you and you thought it was a bill. Let me ask you a question. If you have a regular checking account, you get a statement every month. Is that a bill? No, it shows your beginning balance, your deposits, the checks you've written, and a debit card you used, and a charge of fees that you wanted to be removed from your bank account. So you actually have less money. And that shows you what happens to your date from your account by that date. So the same thing with your alleged credit card. Your bank issued, I had to always be clear about that. Bank issued alleged credit card is not a bill, but you were a good person. You thought you were legally obligated to send them $500. That's the first time the bank ever counted your money. Okay. Now that's very important because in accounting classes, we learn that banks are only about loans. If you have no money, you go to the bank, you come out with money from a loan. On the other side, if you take money to the bank and leave it with them, that's technically a loan. You were loaning money. So you loaned $500 to the bank. The bank put that in a free checking account. You just don't happen to have any checks. And now they give you a debit card disguised as a credit card. You got to keep understanding this. The very first time it came to you as a gift card, when you sent money to the bank, it now becomes a debit card. So every subsequent purchase that you have made has been with your own money. And that's a very important thing to get through to you is that you sent money to the bank, you loaned the bank money, and if you used your money, it was a less obligation to the bank. So at the end of the month, you wrote a check out to the bank, they deposited in your free checking account, and you used your money the following month. So this is what you do. You write a letter to the bank asking to close your free checking account. Okay. And that would be the weakest step to take. If you want to bump it up, then have your CPA write a letter that says, one, bank, you do not have an invoice because you didn't provide any goods or services to my client. Two, my client never signed a promissory note. And by law, by federal law, you have to have a promise to pay them back. So there's no promissory note. You never issued a loan. The CPA explains how this is a scam to scam my client. And then you have, that's the second step. If you want to boost it up even more powerful, have an attorney and you go $300, $500. No. There's simple ways with called Legal Shield. It's $29. You sign up in a couple of days. You're talking to an attorney. You ask them to write a letter that says fraud undoes all contracts. That's all you need them to say. Then you don't have to join the following month. And for $29, you've got a attorney letter. Now, what would even be better is in my book, I explain how to file a lawsuit, but you don't file it. Okay. You make it appear that you have filed a lawsuit without a docket number. You don't pay the court any money. You fill out the form, you fill out the material that I have in my book, and you can send this lawsuit to the bank. Now, that's important because you're going to show the bank you're going to have discovery. In your complaint, you explain the whole scam they're doing. And then the best part is the injunction. Now, no, if you have somebody bothering you, if you've got a company saying you owe us money, and they're calling and harassing you, you can go to court not to resolve that issue, but to stop them from harassing you. That's called an injunction. So you're asking the judge through your injunction to oversee that this company actually had a debt. Do they have an invoice? Do they have a promissory note? And and also fraud undoes all contracts. So you don't have a contractual agreement with these people. In 30 days, if the bank doesn't send the court a invoice, an outstanding unpaid invoice, a certified copy of the promissory note, and an affidavit from someone inside the bank that says you have a debt, they're in contempt of court. So this is the most powerful thing. So the bank, what they'll do is click. That's all you want the bank to do is make one click, it's off your credit report, and you never get a 1099-C. And so you're not skating out on debt, you actually are closing your free checking account. And that's what I'm proposing. So you don't need to believe me. Take a look at the show notes, check it out yourself. Take this podcast to your CPA, have them read through my chapter in my book. It's if I have a free consultation. So that's the way I can help you out and your audience on the alleged bank issue, alleged credit card debt.
Well, I appreciate you so much for joining me and telling me a lot about credit card debt. It's something that I think a lot of Americans deal with and people worldwide. And so for you to be able to come on here and give a detailed explanation about it, I really appreciate it. For people that kind of want to learn more about credit card debt and kind of have some help, feel free to list social media on your website. Just promote wherever they can find you to get some more help.
Oh, sure. In the show notes, you'll see Tommy A. Kilpatrick, and that's the Facebook. And there will be a link there for you to go and to get a free book. I have an extra free book. But then if you let me know about, and my email will be in the show notes too. So either way, let me know if you want a free 15-minute consultation. And if you do that, I will send you my $69 book for free. Forgive and Forget: How to Nuke Your Credit Card Debt.
As I always do, I'll put all of his links in the description below to all of his social media and website, and his Podmatch account is on there too. I usually don't share Podmatch accounts to my descriptions. However, due to that, he has very detailed instructions about credit card debt and have some really good information. I am going to link his Podmatch account down below so that you can find it. And his links to his website and his Facebook are there as well. But I'll put those in the description as well so you don't have to go searching for them. Tommy, I appreciate you so much for taking the time to sit down with me and thank you so much for giving some good advice to my listeners.
Well, thank you very much for having me. Good luck.
You can also follow me on social media as well. Lethal Venom Podcast on Instagram and TikTok, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Noah's Podcast. And as always, listen to Lethal Venom wherever you get your podcast from. It's on all the major platforms: Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon, YouTube, Pandora. I mean, it's everywhere, so feel free to subscribe so you'll get notified when the episodes drop. This is a little shorter episode today, so just a little quick, short episode that had great advice. I highly am so thankful for Tommy to come on here and share this wonderful information with me, and hopefully you learned something as well. Hope y'all all have a great rest of your day and week. Be safe, make good decisions, and I'll see you all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.